I'm Todd Sokolow from ForcesOfGeek.com, and joining us is Robert Englund, the one and only.
Proud of these projects I have coming out for Halloween, and I really want to help fans.
Well, happy Halloween. This is the purpose of your holiday.
You know, I'll tell you something funny. I can tell fans where we are right now.
Sure.
We're in Arena in New York City, the famous nightclub, and years ago I had a midnight gig here. Halloween Eve, midnight, in a town car, careening, you know, around the corner here, and there was a crosswalk, and there was a sexy mom, dare I say MILF, in a Freddy outfit with slashed, sexy sweater, Freddy sweater, opera hose, high heels, and a fedora, and behind her in the crosswalk were little tiny Freddys. Children. And all I could think of was, oh my God, if my driver takes out this mom and those 5 kids dressed as Freddy, I can see the tabloids tomorrow. But that was all homemade. So, you know, I like to sound like Mr. Wired, you know, but I'm not. I mean, I'm not Twittering. However, I mean, I've had a nice website for over 10 years, and I just dumped some money in it again and upgraded it again with my webmaster. You know, but the thing about Fear began as a feature film script called Fear Chamber, and extraordinary, had me hooked from, you know, the 5th or 6th page. We're doing a thing with phobias and patience that we did with teenagers and dreams and nightmares in Elm Street. And instead of being a boogeyman or a serial killer, I actually am a well-intended psychologist, psychiatrist who's a little obsessed with curing a couple of his patients, and perhaps something went wrong stateside. I've lost my medical license. I've moved south of the border with my faithful assistant, Kane Hodder. We've got Danielle Harris. Her fear, her particular phobia is a fear of darkness, but here's the degree of difficulty for us. We really had to wrap our heads around what you just brought up, which is the truncated, the abbreviated, the reduced 8-minute narrative. And we also wanted to bleed, no pun intended, into each segment some of the backstory of the characters that are recurring. Who's sleeping with who's slept with who's obsessed with who has holding something over someone else in terms of a power trip, as well as kind of getting the backstory on why I'm in Juarez, Mexico, as opposed to the States. And we learned to do this with a look and a gesture and a single line, as opposed to a page and a half of expository dialogue. This was the trick we had to find, because we had to leave room in every webisode for these great visual effects that Robert Hall came up with. This is the guy that came directly to us from Sarah Connor Chronicles. And the idea is that one of our goals, Mark Johnson, the producer, FearNet, Robert Hall, myself, one of our goals was to elevate the standard of web programming to a new height. In the overall menu of horror movies and thrillers, I love The Mad Scientist. As far back as I think my original discovery was The Bride of Frankenstein, and all the way up to one of my favorite movies, Brian De Palma's Sisters, which has a great performance by William Finley as the guy that fell in love with Siamese twins. Anyway, Margot Kidder at her sexiest and youngest and juiciest. But I want to go there. But we're going to need more than 5. We have 20 scripts right now. 20. We have 20, and I think the ideal way, at least that we've discovered up to now, is to shoot 5 in a row, beat ourselves up, lock ourselves in the old hospital in the barrio of East LA in Boyle Heights, and just stay there for a week. Then we all take a breather, except for the post people. We hand it over to fearnet.com. We hand it over to Robert Hall and let them go do all of their effects that are post-production, as opposed to the practicals on the set. And then, you know, I'll heal from our wounds, R&R, and back for another fight. Part of it is you have to do it in a certain place in the script or story. You don't just do it every second. Like, I know if I've got a long camera dolly shot and I've got the glove on, it's going to let me scrape along something or down something. I know that's a moment. I know enough about movie making and filmmaking as a director myself, so I'll wait for that, and I'll really try to think of something there that I can.
Like comments all the time.
Yeah, and this is why I made that point in the book. You want to get that laugh in the same spot every night. That's the point. And you feel a little bit godlike when you can do that. It's a nice, you know, it sort of strokes that control freak part of you. And it's the same thing with horror. You know, you've got to know where those beats are. You kind of put a little circle in your script where those beats are. And that's where you really want it to be really nasty, really frightening subliminally, or you want a William Castle joke jump, you know. My wife's best friend brought over a dog-eared paperback copy of the source material for the Swedish vampire movie Let the Right One In. And as much as I love the film, and I know they're remaking it in Hollywood next year, this book is so incredible. It's like, I felt like a 14-year-old boy under the covers with a flashlight reading my first Stephen King or my first Anne Rice or my first Clive Barker. This is the vampire mythology revisited and reinterpreted to such an imaginative place that it leaves Twilight, Vampire Diaries, all of them in the dust. And I like all those shows. I'm just saying, this is Robert Englund's hot tip of the week. Hey, you Halloweenies, check out Let the Right One In. The Swedish movie, don't be afraid of the subtitles, and the source material book. It's not an awkward translation. I'm sure the Swedish writers speak perfect English and wrote it in English also. No, I was approached for the original reissue, which was going to be all of us old guys in the future. Then they were going to do it with young, beautiful kids that weren't us. Then they had another complete. Somebody came up with a great script apparently. Because I got to tell you, I was at Comic-Con and I saw a little bit of it, and I love the girl with short hair who's playing this sort of Madison Avenue. Don't worry, we're here to help you. But it seems to me that perhaps they've taken it to a kind of subtle metaphor and critique of the media now, as opposed to a kind of Nazi metaphor, or occupation of Europe, World War II metaphor, which was the original show. Now, V is a series, the new V, and if it's a success, hey, maybe I'll get invited to do a cameo. I don't know, maybe I'll be an alien expert. But they need to they need to be fresh and redefine it, and everything I've seen looks real interesting.
Thank you so much for that.
Oh, listen, it's my pleasure.